and it's to be in purple. But
That's
Wow.
insane.
I was gonna ask you, Mendel, is how'd you get into counsel or academic advising? Like, what brought you there?
Well, honestly, I'll be honest, I never wanted to do this in my life. Well, not that I didn't want to, but it's not where I saw myself. Like when I graduated a couple of years ago, my sole purpose was to be a general manager for an NBA team, right? And that was my goal. When I was in college, I was a manager for the basketball team for 4 years. I ran cross country for 2 years. And I did so much in the athletic department, video editing and stuff like that. And um, my junior year, I got a scholarship from the alumni committee from my school. And I got a chance, and it just so happened that an alumni from my school was there accepting an award on the same night, in the same program. His name is Bill Manning. Bill Manning is the president for the Toronto Football Club. And so he asked me, hey, do you know who Messiah Jury is? I said, no, I don't. And he said, do your research on Messiah Jury and give me a call when you do. So I looked up Messiah Jury that next second. Messiah Jury is the president for the Toronto Raptors. So I gave him a call. I said, hey, I did my research, whatever. And, he paid for me maybe a couple months later, or that same summer, he paid for a flight for me to go to Toronto to meet with Masai and his staff in Toronto and with the Raptors, and then with the Toronto FC. And then the next month after that, the best advice somebody ever gave me was to come back to Toronto as soon as you can to keep these connections alive. So that next month, I made the trip down to Toronto to vacation, but that was really just a way for me to keep these connections going. I had a meeting with the assistant general manager of Toronto Football Club at Yankee Stadium the night before, flew up to Toronto, and got to be at BMO Field in Toronto to see the Toronto FC play. And then I really just kept these connections alive. From those connections, I was able to meet with somebody from the Raptors organization that put me in contact with somebody at the NBA league office. And then, I just started meeting people from different teams, from the Knicks, from the Suns, the Cavs, a whole bunch of different teams. And then from that connection from the NBA, I got to meet Mark Tatum and Adam Silver. And then it spiraled into just a job a career fair that happened at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. I'm from New York, born and raised. So it wasn't too far from my house. So I took the trip down to the career fair, went there, and the week after I was invited back to the Barclays Center for a sales academy and got the job right on the spot, right? So before I even graduated from college, it was my senior year, I had a job with the Nets right after college. And so, there was that. It was a really cool experience, working in sales. And then I also worked with our Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion, Maurice Stinnett, who's now with Warner Media right now. And we really just tied celebrities and players to fans and gave them like a really cool experience in that way. And it was a really cool experience for me. But when I actually met the GM, Sean Marks, and, I realized that, wow, this is a really cool job, but maybe this isn't what I really want to do with my life. And so I was in a really, really long holding pattern where I was like, man, I don't know what I want to do. I know I want to work with athletes because sports is my life. I'm not leaving sports, but what else is there to do? And so I knew that getting in the front office of an NBA team was pretty difficult, especially at the time. And so one of my mentors, from University of Bridgeport, really just pushed me into doing academic advising. And so from there, I just said, hey, all right, let me try to tie in. I love sports. I love helping students because I did it a little bit in college. And it just so happened that I saw the post for this job, and, I didn't even expect to get it because every single job before that, turned me down. But this is the one that stuck. So, I definitely have appreciated the journey more than anything. And I think that, it's a long-winded way to say that, I just appreciate the fact of the experience and the experience that I'm able to bring to these students is not just from an academic standpoint, right? I was in the corporate America, what one would call it. So I can give them that experience and that mindset and that perspective. So, it's just, again, not something I ever thought I'd see myself doing, but, I appreciate it every day.
What was it that when you met the GM that turned you off about that career path? What did you realize at that moment?
Well, I realized that, you don't really have a lot of interaction with players, right? When I was in college and I was working with the basketball team, it was, I had so much interaction with players. I had, it was like a brotherhood. You're in the group chat with the players. And, that's for me, I love basketball. I played basketball in high school. When I got to college, I realized, hey, I'm not going to compete on this level because they really, really kicked me down when I played pickup with them. But, so I stayed on the sideline, but I still wanted that brotherhood mentality of playing and being around these guys. And when you're a GM, yeah, you know them and you have a relationship, but you also have to understand that it's business, right? You are the CEO of that team, and it's business. If a person has to be traded, I don't care how good of a guy they are, you have to let them go, right? And for me, if I was to go in back into any realm of the NBA, it would be for working in player development, because I really, and working with off the court activities with players, because I really not only love players, being able to see success in their life off the floor, but I really enjoy just that brotherhood of being around athletes and being around players, right? That really, really drives me to be better, and being around people who work so hard, like, and to me, that's why I wanted to be in sports in the first place. It's like, athlete like LeBron, again, my favorite player, you would think he's like the greatest player that he could possibly be right now, but yet he still works 20 times harder than he is. Like even Kobe, that Mamba mentality, like Kobe is probably not even probably, is one of the greatest players who've ever played the game of basketball, but like his work ethic never stopped. Like he kept going and kept going, and you think that he's at the peak of his career, but he kept working hard to improve himself. And I love that about athletes, is just that resiliency, right? And so, if being a GM took away from that, that's not the field that I wanted to be in. I really wanted to be, as much with athletes as I possibly could be.
Mm. How long after you had that realization did you land this job? Like, what was that period like?
Well, honestly, maybe I would say maybe about halfway through my time working at the Nets, I had that realization. It was a moment where um, we had just signed Kenneth Fareed at the time, and I was at my desk, and the CEO walked down with Kenneth Fareed, and we got to meet Kenneth Fareed. He was walking through the tunnel and everything in our office, and then I looked down on my computer, and I'm like, wow. Like, because the Nets, we practice at the business floors on the 7th floor. The Nets practice on the 8th floor, and right above us, they're practicing. And so it was like, wow, like I really don't want to be here. Like, like where I actually want to be is upstairs. Like, and I'm missing out everything that I worked hard for, and or at least I thought at the time, right? Because again, it's all a journey, right? And I couldn't expect within halfway through my time there that I was going to be everywhere that I wanted to be. That's pretty unrealistic for me to have thought that as being younger as I was. And so I started looking for this job when I left the Nets around May of last year, I believe. And I looked for this. I just started looking for any random job, and I started interviewing for this job maybe around September or October of last year. So it wasn't really that long in between it, but I would say maybe about a few months after.
Yeah. And how long were you at the Nets for altogether?
I was at the Nets for maybe a year and a half. I say it's almost 2 years, but it's about a year and a half.